For those of you that I haven't met yet, my name is Bill Lee. I'm the president of the Kansas Music Hall of Fame, and I want to welcome you.
Why, you could address a letter Sin City, Kansas, and they know to deliver it to us.
Whatever he did full tilt. It was never halfway. He did it.
Earlier this month, a fundraiser took place to help local filmmaker Chris Snipes buy a new camera. Since August 2012, Chris has been shooting a series of documentaries called Our Town. The focus? Exactly what it sounds like. Chris is using the project to highlight the personalities, institutions, and history that make Lawrence what it is. I sat down with Chris to discuss the project and why he was driven to chronicle Lawrence on film.
This is Chris Snipes, a local filmmaker, creator and director of Our Town. The first documentary that I ever did took 5 years. It was on a late friend of mine. And it took a long time. I wanted to gather a lot of stuff. It was about his life, so I wanted to make it very comprehensive. I'd never made a documentary before that. I really, really liked it. And so I was like wondering why I hadn't done this all my life. And then I just started looking around me, and I was just thinking there's tons of fuel, tons of subject matter here in Lawrence to go by. There's tons of interesting people, tons of interesting activities. And so I thought maybe I will do something for ideally to put on cable access or the local PBS station and make it in little half-hour chunks. And so I just started from there and just started making a list of people and soon found that I had an exceedingly long list.
This list of individuals isn't just made up of people, though. Just like any community, our institutions are a part of who we are. And Chris is using Our Town to capture that as well. His next installment covers the last performance of the live comedy event, the Victor Continental Show.
Yes, I was around for the rehearsals and around for the last two shows and interviewed everybody throughout the process. And so, and it was just a last-minute idea. A friend of mine said, hey, why don't you do this? It's coming up real quick. I only had one more episode before that, the one that I just put online. And so next up was the last Victor Continental Show. Been around for 15 years, like a body sort of variety skit comedy show. Blast. And they need to have as much recognition as possible.
A big part of the project is helping to share what he finds, helping to spread that recognition among a community he loves.
I landed here. I had a job at a used bookstore, a chain used bookstore in Kansas City. They were opening up a branch in Lawrence. I'd always heard fantastic things about Lawrence. I loved it when I visited here, and I thought, nothing was keeping me in Kansas City. Moved here for that job. Ended up really, really loving it. And I want to show it off, Mm-hmm. I've only had 4 episodes out, and already people have told me, like, this was the first time they ever came across these people. Are you kidding me? I thought this was obvious news, but that's such a good thing to hear, Even with the last one that I did on Roger Martin, his wife watched it and said, I learned some things about my husband that I didn't even know. Good things, I hope.
Part of life in a college town like Lawrence is the constant awareness of change. As people come and go, Lawrence is constantly evolving. That idea that things might not be the same tomorrow as they are today has worked its way into what the project is at its core.
Even the opening song for it, the Iris DeMint song, which she agreed to, we kind of sort of came to the agreement together. She re-recorded her song called Our Town specifically so I could use for the series. That song sort of has a melancholy feel to it, it's about things changing, and you better enjoy it while it's here. Lawrence might not always be this cool of a place, even though it's gone pretty long without being a very forward-thinking community. But things can change. But whether things change or not, it would be nice to capture these moments, and also past moments too, like the one that I did on Ricky Dean Sinatra. So many people came to me and said, I felt like I was back in those days, and I wasn't even back in those days. So if I'm able to do that for some other people, I think that's such a rewarding thing to be able to do.
Go on now and say goodbye to our town, to our town.
But even with the constant changes of a college town, there's this sense of community. A lot of what makes this place great is that we have a lot of the trappings of a much bigger city, nightlife, dining, music, but in a place that's small enough we can feel like we belong to something. Is that a part of how you're looking at?
Oh, sure. definitely.
a project like this as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see ever wanting to leave Lawrence. It's a city. I mean, I'm discovering, even doing these documentaries, discovering so many different levels to it. You see, walking down Mass Street, if you do it more than 2 times a month, you're going to see the same people again, and some of them are very interesting characters. And that's where basically, sort of selfishly, this all comes from. Is like, I want to know more about them.
But you said you're also planning to maybe look at institutions.
Institutions. I'm started taping one on taping. God, all these outmoded. How do you say? I started hard driving. I mean, it doesn't really. You know what I mean. A documentary on Prairie Moon Waldorf School, alternative school that's a little bit outside of town. Bunny Baltimore, who's a burlesque dancer. I want to do some on some of the local farms that are around town. And I want to start one in January about the relationship. This is kind of a sort of an ambiguous theme, but I kind of like it like that. The relationship between William Burroughs and Lawrence during his last years here. And I want to start it in January because there's a retrospective show coming up at the Arts Center that looks to be really incredible. John Waters, the filmmaker, is going to be speaking there.
As Chris keeps making new installments of Our Town, he'll continue posting them to his website and to YouTube. He doesn't have any plans yet for distribution in other forms, like local television, but he's fine with being patient and for now just focusing on making the episodes. The most important thing is that he's contributing to the culture of a town that, even though the risk of change is always present, has been pretty consistently great so far.
Sometimes towns have a history and then like something changes. The administration changes drastically, or all the smart people move away, or I don't know why that happens, but they're staying here and it just keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger. It's, I think, because people take pride in their community. They realize that this is something special. It's worth adding to and giving back to, and that's really cool. I mean, that's important.
Say goodbye to our town, to our town. Can you